This is Tom Fox. Welcome to a special 5-part podcast series, Integrity Matters, Culture, Training, and Compliance, sponsored by K2 Integrity. Over this podcast series, we will break down corporate culture, compliance training, and communications. Topics include breaking down the big picture on culture, espresso shots of training, skills development and regulatory changes, tailored and risk-based training, and operational aspects of training. In this 5-part exploration, I am joined by Kobe Bambilia, Managing Director at K2 Integrity. With more than 15 years of global experience with complex Bank Secrecy Act and anti-money laundering compliance, sanctions programs, and regulatory enforcement actions, Kobe helps financial institutions meet the challenge of complying with BSA regulations, OFAC, and the Patriot Act, and assists those facing regulatory enforcement action. He helps financial institutions adhere to regulatory consent orders that mandate review and enhancement of AML compliance, BSA, OFAC, sanctions, policies, and procedures. He implements remedial actions and helps companies comply with consent orders that mandate transaction monitoring program lookbacks. I'm also joined by Tina Rampino, Associate Managing Director at K2 Integrity, where she manages and oversees multiple financial crimes compliance training engagement with the firm's global clients. During her career, Tina has developed extensive experience managing the training elements of regulatory remedial efforts for financial institutions under critical enforcement orders. Prior to joining K2 Integrity, she was the Vice President and Head of Compliance Training at Commerzbank AG, New York branch. She was also Vice President of Compliance and Communication. In this episode 2, I continue my discussion with Espresso shots of training to help facilitate attainable training demands. Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, back for another episode. And today I have back with me Tina Rampino. And today we're going to take up the Espresso shots of training. Tina, first of all, welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me again, Tom. It's great to be here with you.
Tina, as we move into, I'm not even sure what phase to call it, of the pandemic, over the last 18 months or so, many businesses have been turned on their heads, and that includes financial institutions. And we've all had to adapt because our risks have changed. And I was wondering, during the time when we were working from home, were there particular challenges around your expertise in training? Did training fall to the wayside? Or how did companies and financial institutions keep employees engaged even when we were all working remotely?
Well, COVID-19 certainly interrupted many aspects of life over the past year and a half, and training has had to adapt in many ways because of this. So in the early phase of the pandemic, institutions had to quickly change to a fully virtual working environment. Many institutions had to find creative solutions to adapt their training programs in response, and all planned instructor-led training was canceled or transitioned to virtual training. So how did this affect a financial institution's annual compliance training plans? The delays, rescheduling, redesigning of mandatory trainings to accommodate the virtual working environment delayed mandatory training as they tried to work through issues as mundane as just bandwidth issues, as all employees were now remotely logged in to the same learning management systems at the same time every day. So many financial institutions were challenged to push mandatory training to the end of 2020 or even into 2021, and some even resulted in cancellations of trainings. So there were many competing priorities, and this led to many demands for training that had to be managed. And now we're at the end of 2021, and even though the virtual work environment has become routine for compliance professionals, the pressure is on to get back up to speed on all of those trainings.
It certainly sounds like a steep hill, but from my perspective, maybe the other issue is our risks, and our risks have changed. We had risks in working from home. We will have a different set of risks in return to work, and there may be yet a third set in a hybrid work environment. Given where financial institutions are in this steep hill they're looking at already. How do you counsel clients or even suggest they begin to get back on track?
So the industry standard is moving away from really long general awareness training on many topics, and they're moving more towards targeted and role-based training, which is very specific to the risks present within the financial institution. So in that respect, the espresso shot training can be shorter and more concise, but really drill down to specific risks relevant to the institution. At K2 Integrity, we're working with clients to conduct comprehensive training needs assessments and assist them with planning for their 2022 training plans. So we're creating solutions that our clients can deliver shorter and more tailored training, which will result in increased relevance to the employee, but have a lighter burden on training hours. And this is really important. So the concept of espresso shot training can assist employees to better manage their workload while keeping up with important issues relevant to their roles. For example, institutions can creatively think about delivery and modality of training content. So not only e-learning format, but something maybe more engaging, like cartoons or videos or an interactive virtual training.
Could you give us some examples that you have either developed for clients that you've worked with jointly to help clients, and really talk about some examples that you've seen actually work and engage employees going forward?
Yeah, so it's really important to find the right balance between training on general awareness topics and shorter, more relevant practical training opportunities. So bankers and staff have a lot on their plate. Training should not just be a check the box activity or something that is dreaded, otherwise it just won't be effective. Real life and practical scenarios, case studies, and other simulations are really important because they give employees an opportunity to learn in a sandbox environment and to practice the skills that they're being taught. So we recommend keeping it concise. The shorter bite-sized learning is a trend in training programs. And instead of offering half-day and full-day sessions, break up the programs into shorter segments of 20 minutes or less, which are easier for participants to absorb and digest and even schedule. So examples would be short cartoons or quarterly reminders that doesn't feel like a burden, but more very engaging and relevant to them. And K2 Integrity has developed an online training platform and resource center called the Dedicated Online Financial Integrity Network, or Dolphin. And this platform helps our clients to with their training requirements to provide more diverse options for training content and modalities. So with heavy training burdens, espresso shots give people back a lot of time.
Tina, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode, but I was wondering if our listeners wanted any more information on some of the topics we've touched upon in this podcast, or more information on K2 Integrity and their training outreach. Where could they go?
I'm looking forward to the next episode, Tom. To learn more, please visit our website, k2integrity.com, or find us on LinkedIn and Twitter.
And I hope our listeners will join us for our next episode, where we take up skills development and meeting regulatory needs. Tina, thank you so much for visiting with me, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thanks, Tom.
This is Tom Fox again. Thank you for listening to episode 2 in this special 5-part series of Integrity Matters, Culture, Training, and Compliance, sponsored by K2 Integrity. I hope you will join us tomorrow in episode 3, where I will visit with Kobe Bambilia on skills development and meeting regulatory needs. For more information about K2 Integrity, check out their website, www.k2integrity.com. It's also listed in the show notes. This special podcast series, Integrity Matters, Culture, Training, and Compliance, is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.